Hey guys, in this episode of Discovering Lost Ark, we're gonna take a look at the gearing system. We're gonna see how you gear up, where do you get gear from, how valuable is it, etc, etc. Obviously in an MMORPG, guys, gear is one of the most important things, and most players that play MMORPG play it also because of gear and acquiring it and the grind and so on and so forth and showing off, etc. So let's get going into the gearing process, guys. Before that, if you don't know me, by the way, my nickname is Saivo. Nice to meet you. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to be covering Lost Ark. I absolutely love this game, so I'm going to be covering it for the foreseeable future. If you're interested also in Lost Ark for our Western release, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I have weekly, even 2 times, 3 times a week videos about the game, yeah? Cool. Gear, guys. Lost Ark is a game that's heavily based on item level. Very many things in the game that you wanna do and that you need to do have item level requirements, yeah? So item level you get from gear. Thus, gear in Lost Ark is extremely important. Being geared is a nice thing, a proud thing. Getting the gear is also a grind, unlike other MMORPGs. For example, a game in which gear doesn't matter at all, Guild Wars 2. Everyone has the best there, right? A game in which gear matters a lot and it's pretty tough to get, Aeon. So Lost Ark again is somewhere closer to Aeon this time in terms of gear and gearing up rather than Guild Wars 2 in that sense. This is my character profile, guys, and as you can see here on the right hand side, we have the basic stats for my particular class. It is dexterity and vitality. Underneath them we have the combat stats, and then under we have the seal effects. I'm gonna cover everything that relates to gear in this video on a basic level. There's no need for guides as the game is not even out for us. Here in terms of armor, I have 5 pieces of armor plus a weapon on the left, and I have 5 accessories plus this stone on the right hand side. These are gathering tools, it doesn't matter. This is my PvP rank, doesn't matter, and so on and so forth, yeah? Cool. Let's go over these stats first just to get them out of the way. Dexterity and vitality is the main stats for my profession. So Blaster, Hawkeye and Devil Hunter, the gunner classes, have these 2 stats as basic stats for their class. For my stat, every 1 point of vitality gives me 2.1 points of HP. So other classes, for example, have more HP gained from 1 point of vitality, and some others have less HP gained from 1 point of vitality. Vitality is a stat that you get from questing, from merchant affinity, from all sorts of places in the world. There's potions that increase your dexterity and vitality. Another thing that increases your dexterity, for example, is here in the wardrobe section of the game. Wardrobe, remember, cosmetic items that actually give you a little bit of an advantage in terms of your profession's main stats. You can see what dexterity does there to me. So if I have a cosmetic item that gives me percent of my dexterity, it's quite of a big thing, yeah? For example, this hat, it gives me 0.5% more dexterity from my total. So it is a cosmetic item, but it gives me a little bit of stats. Right, now that we have these 2 covered, let's go to the combat stats. Combat stats are very interesting in this game, very interesting and at the same time very simple. Most classes will go for either agility, critical or speciality. That's about the 3 stats that really matter in the game that are worth going for. Every other stat like proficiency, endurance, subdue, these stats are just for the RNG system to work properly, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that a little bit later when we talk about this gear and this stone, yeah? Now, critical, I'm not going to go through what these stats mean, it doesn't matter, but you can kind of understand if you've been playing MMORPGs that there are stats and these stats come from gear. Let's look at this hat piece, for example, in terms of armor pieces, yeah? Now, this hat has an item level there. It is an item level of 520. The hat also, you see above the item level, it has a polish effect. The hat also gives me dexterity, vitality, and it gives me some of the combat stats. And by some I mean 2 per piece only. It gives me agility and critical because that's what I rolled to have. I'm gonna show you a little bit later in the video how you do that and what you can do with gear in Lost Ark. A very interesting gearing up system and gear system in general, yeah? under the combat stats, it also has a polish effect. These polish effects, I'm going to talk about them when we get to a merchant that helps us change them. It also has a rune effect under the polish effect. It also has a set effect under the rune effect. So these are all the things that every piece of gear has, well, not every piece of armor has, and everything that you can do with them. The rune effect is like a mana stone in Aeon, sort of like an infusion in Guild Wars 2, right? When you get all sorts of specific attributes for your character, like this one, for example, has dark resistance 20%. So bosses and mobs that have spells that use dark magic, then you get to resist them 20% more often. Of course, you can socket all of your pieces with these kinds of runes, and all of your pieces could have more dark resistance, and eventually you could get to 100% dark resistance, which means that every spell that is part of the dark category, you're gonna be immune to it. Very useful, these runes, for raiding in particular, more than anything else in the game. Yeah, so that's mostly why they are here. Let's continue with this hat as an example, and let's go from the top to the bottom really fast through all of these things that you can do with gear in the game. Polishing. Polishing is basically enchanting your gear. You take a piece of gear. This hat did not have 5 of those dots at the top there when I got it. It had none. So as I was progressing with this hat, enchanting it, I kept getting those dots and I kept getting polish effects. I'm gonna show you what that means. Basically, polishing gives you more item level to your item, and those effects that you saw on the hat, those 2 effects. I cannot use my hat, I don't see my hat here to polish it more to show you, because the hat is already polished to the max, and the maximum amount of polishing is 5, as you can see right here. But let's take, for example, this pair of pants that I have equipped on me. In order to polish them, I need some materials. This is the most important material in the game in terms of gear. This translated as acrasium. This, I'm not gonna go through where you get it. Fuck, I almost started to talk about this material. We're not gonna talk about it. This is like the enchantment stones in Aeon, right? You just get them, and you know how hard it is to get them. It's the same in Lost Ark, and you enchant your gear. Now, from no step polishing to 1 step polishing, let's see what you get. Item level is raised from 400 item level to 420 for this particular piece. Physical defense, dexterity, vitality, and the first step of the polishing effect, which gives me an extra perk to my stats. Cool. Let's continue with the hat. After the polishing effect, you see there that there is runes. Runes, actually already talked about. I'm not gonna go into them any longer. There is a set effect for this particular hat. Now, there is very many sets in the game that you can acquire, and now is a good segue to talk about how you get gear. There is a set from raiding that has raiding specific bonuses. I actually have a piece right here. There you go. So these pair of gloves give me, for 2 pieces, you see right there, dexterity plus 70, for 3 pieces something, and for 5 pieces something, including 15% increase in damage to raid monsters. This is gear from raiding. If you get gear from raiding, you are a little bit better prepared to raid. If you get gear like this one, for example, from sea and water content, you're a little bit more prepared for sea and water content. As you can see in the set bonuses of my hat, it gives me, for 3 pieces, the ship movement speed increases by 2 knots. That is quite a nice thing to have when you're on the sea a lot. More speed to your boats. Very nice thing. There is gear from dungeons that obviously gives you an advantage in dungeons. There is gear from PvP that obviously gives you an advantage in, not in organized PvP, because all of these set bonuses, all of these runes, all of these polishing effects, they don't work in PvP arenas. However, they do work in open world PvP. So if you get gear from PvPing, which there is a set of gear from PvP, you get bonuses that are very nice for open world PvP on islands and whatnot, yeah? A variety of places that you can get gear from. There is also crafted gear. Actually, why don't I show you? Where is the crafted gear? There you go. Here is the crafted gear, the merchant that helps you craft your gear. Let's take a look at this, right? The hat. What does this hat give you? recovery items become 15% more effective, which means when you use a pot, you get more HP back from that pot by 15%. Movement speed 10% on 5 set bonuses, and on 6 set bonuses, you have carrying speed increases by 30%. I'm not gonna get into that, what that means, but it's very useful when you're carrying inside gathering dungeons, when you're carrying your loot back to the original start point. It's obviously very useful to be 30% faster, right? So there's gear for every kind of player, depending on what you wanna do in this game. You wanna PvP? Go ahead, PvP, you get PvP gear. It's not that the PvP gear is bad for raiding, it's just that if you have a full raiding set, you're gonna do 15% more damage, which is obviously very valuable. But you can still finish and do a lot of DPS even in your PvP gear, in your crafted gear from gathering and whatnot, or in your dungeon gear or whatever. So having that said, there is gear for every kind of taste. Enchanting gear and polishing gear costs the same kind of material as every other gear. Of course, this is again a sea and water content pair of pants, so I need one of the sea and water content materials. If I want to enchant my weapon, which is from raiding, then I need pieces of materials from raid bosses that you kill. If you want to enchant where is my this one, for example. Let's go here. This is a dungeon piece. If I want to enchant a dungeon piece, then I need this material on top of the common one from dungeons, and so on and so forth. So you get my drift, yeah? It's very nice and it works very well. Now let's go right here up there to the merchant that changes the polish effect, to the rune merchant, to everything else that you would want to know about gear. Very nice process to gear up, a very important process. As I told you, the game is kind of locked towards item level, so even talking to some NPCs around the world is restricted by item level, if you can believe it, yeah? Here is the place where you, in this particular town, where you deal with your gear. For example, this guy right here changes the stats on my gear. So if I want to put this weapon here, and I don't want critical and agility, I can just press this button. It's RNG. I spend a little bit of this currency, and then I just reroll and I get subdue and proficiency. Very bad stats, and so on and so forth until you get the stats that you actually want. Some pieces are more expensive to reroll, some pieces are cheaper to reroll. It depends if it's a weapon or if it's a piece of armor, and so on and so forth, yeah? Another NPC that's valuable is this one right here, which is gonna change our polish effects. I was talking about them, yeah? Let's take my launcher, for example. It's polished once, so I have only one effect. If I would get it to here, another 2 more polishings, I would be able to unlock this effect also. Again, random plus the use of one of these items. These items, I have 600 of them, can't even bother. So this is a very simple thing to do with your gear, and a very cool thing to do with your gear, and a very nice thing to do with your gear. A bit of money sink, but that's not a big deal, yeah? Let's see what I can get. I can get any of these. One. If I do conversion, then it's gonna give me a choice of something else, or I can still keep this one. I'm just gonna keep this one for the purpose of this video, but you kind of see how it works, yeah? Another thing that is important is the Rune Artisan right here. I was talking about runes. Some pieces have locked rune slots that you can unlock, yeah, with these catalysts, and if I unlock the rune slot, I'm gonna get a random rune slot. This one is a very, very good rune slot because you can put any rune in it. However, if I'm gonna unlock this one, and you will see, maybe I get unlucky a little bit, so I can show you. Yeah, there you go. This one, I don't even have any runes to put in here because it got me a blue slot. This one, it's a general slot, a very good slot to have, and so on and so forth. I can also change the slots. For example, I take this piece. I don't like this blue slot, it's shitty. I use this mat and a bit of currency, and I re-roll the slots to this. And there you go, from blue I got red. Do I like red? I don't know, no. But anyway, you keep doing it, and this is again another money thing. This is the thing, these are the things that you can do with your armor and your weapons. Let's talk a little bit about accessories, and we're gonna be moving to this side of the map as well. Accessories are also 5, just like armor, and then there's this stone as well. Accessories, unlike armor, they give you magical defense stat. This necklace, for example, these earrings, magic defense, the one in yellow there, yeah? The armor gives me physical defense. That is one difference in between them. They also give me my main stats, dexterity and vitality, and they also give me again 2 combat stats that you can again roll at that NPC that we just visited. That's about it. The accessories don't have rune slots, they don't have polish effects, and they don't have set effects. That's kind of it about accessories. Yeah, accessories have a very important thing though in terms of your earrings, your rings here. Rings can have seal effects. Seal effects is another nice mechanic in Lost Ark, which enhances the whole gearing up system even further. There's a lot of seal effects, boys. Yeah, there's a lot that you can choose from, and each of them give you various things. For example, this one that I have on right now, I'm just testing. 2% chance to receive a large amount of shillings after defeating an enemy. Shillings is one of these currency. For example, this one. I'm just testing with this, see how it goes, right? I can select to add this one, for example. Impairment damage increases by 10% for the first level of this one. I can select to have this one. Reduces awakening skills cooldown by 20% and increases its usage inside limited places. For example, this is my awakening skill, yeah? And if it reduces the 5-minute cooldown by 20% and also increases the number of times I can use it inside a raid or a dungeon, that's obviously a big plus for me. And there's various other things that you can socket. For example, here, attack power increases by 10%, but healing received decreases by 50% by skills and by pots. So do you want the pot to be 50% less effective? Maybe, if you have that gathering set that I showed you, which increases your pot regeneration by 15%. And then if you get this seal effect to level 3, then you're just gonna have your healing decreased by 20% and then healing increased by that set by 15, and there you go, you can mix and match. That's my point. That's why I'm so fucking excited about this game, because it's so awesome and it brings so many interesting things that you can do, right? Only rings can be done with this seal effect. You have 2 rings, so that means here, right here, you're gonna have 2 seal effects. You can have another seal effect if you have a full set of a gear that gives you a seal effect, so that's 3 seal effects in total, but that's about it. Lastly, guys, let's talk a little bit about this stone, a very RNG interesting mechanic. This is the merchant that is going to help us with stones. Actually, let me just go quickly to my warehouse so I can get a stone that is not yet done, so I can show you how it works. Okay, cool, so we got one of those stones here. They come most of the times like this, unidentified, right, without stats. You open it, it drops on the ground, and you pick it back up. And then you have stats on it. This one gives me subdue as a main stat and agility as a secondary stat, right? We go to the NPC that forges them, because you cannot equip them like this in their naked state. And you see here you have 3 buttons, basically 3 things that you need to work with. How this thing works, you have a probability of success here and a failure rate here down here. So I need to fail as few times as possible my critical, because when I fail this, it doesn't take my critical fewer than it is. If I succeed in this red section, then it's gonna minus from my total critical amount, and obviously you don't want that. This is a shitty stone, but it's just an example, right? Now, here in the blue ones, I need to succeed as many times as possible, because it increases my subdue and then it increases my agility. So with a probability of 75% success, I think that we're gonna succeed. We're gonna click. We succeeded. We received 31 subdue on this stone. Probability dropped by 10%. With 65%, I still think I'm gonna succeed, so I'm gonna go in 1 agility. I failed. Probability went back to 75%, and I did not receive any agility. I wasted 1 slot here in this. If I go again, agility, I succeed, and then I fail with 45%, it went to 55. Now at 55, I think, hey, maybe I'm failing, so I need to fill these up as well. This stone is only complete when you fill all of these dots up. 45% chance. I think I'm gonna fail, and I did fail. 55, I think I'm gonna fail, I hope so. I didn't, I succeeded, and it minused my crit, and so on and so forth. You need to fill all of these things before you succeed. And then at the end, you get an HP bonus, which is very important. Depending on your successes and failures, you get an HP bonus, which increases your HP dramatically, or doesn't increases at all if you failed a lot. So this was a shitty stone with a shitty success rate. This is completely RNG, very interesting to do though. A very big money sink if you're into min-maxing your character, so you can have the perfect stone with the perfect perfect stats and perfect values on them as well. This is all about gear, guys, and this is kind of how it works in Lost Ark. These were the basics, of course, didn't get into very many nitty-gritty things, but that's about it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions about gear and how it works. Fantastic gearing system, a pretty grindy one, perfectly suited for an MMORPG these days. I was missing a little bit of realistic grind, no money required for gear, and I got it with Lost Ark. Lots of love as always. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.